Clarence Waldron. Welcome back to another exciting adventure on Black Muse. Tonight's guest is an international singer, songwriter, producer, and actor. His name is Marshall Titus. He's from Chicago, but he lives in all places, Hamburg, Germany. But he's back with new music, and he's going to tell us all about the music and living abroad in Germany. So let him tell his story. Hey, good evening, Marshall.
Hey there, Clarence, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on Black Muse. Uh, and I apologize if I think now I'm looking directly in the camera, but I might veer off a little bit because the way my computer is set up here. Um, but yeah, I am I'm a Chicagoan actually, but now I call myself a shy burger. And that is that's because that's Chicago and Hamburg put together, Scheiberger. And actually, Chicago and Hamburg are sister cities. Not many people know that. Yeah, actually, it's Chicago, Hamburg, and Shanghai in China are sister cities. Uh, so that's a little piece of trivia for you. But yeah, on the 21st of this month, the 21st of September, will be the beginning of my 13th year here, which
Wow.
it's really unbelievable. And I'll say that in German, Deutsch, das ist sehr unglaublich, very unbelievable. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about the new single, Only Love.
Yeah. Only Love is well, the song is not new for me. It actually was written um 2 years ago, at least 2 years ago. Um and I've been performing it for live for the past 2 years. Um, but it's new to my audience and it's my most current release. Um, and since I've been living in Hamburg, um, I started playing guitar. I started learning guitar since living here, and it's a song that I wrote first on guitar, and I've been performing it, on guitar. But it's a song that it it represents my belief, and it's a message that I want to put out into the world. And I think that what's happening, especially in America right now, with the elections coming up and um, the advent of Kamala Harris and the energy and the vibe and the transformation. She's a very transformational uh, person and energy in the American history and culture right now. And so I think that the song uh, is perfect for what's happening in our world, and it's the same kind of message and energy and vibe that she's bringing. So I think it's perfect timing.
Okay. Now, will you have a video to go with the song?
Well, I have a lyric video
Okay.
currently up, and actually this weekend I'm meeting with a creative partner of mine to discuss doing a video or a visual representation of the song. So it's forthcoming,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
and and also along with the release of this song, I'm doing it a little differently than I've released other songs in that For starters, I'm not releasing it on all the all the um, digital platforms like Spotify, iTunes. I'm not doing that initially. I'm only releasing it on Bandcamp, which is a platform that is really designed for artists and especially independent artists, in that any monies that we see or that is the records that are purchased, the artist sees the majority of the money as opposed to on the other platforms where artists really don't see any money. It's mostly a marketing tool. So I'm trying the direct to consumer route for this release and for the upcoming releases that I plan. I want to do just so exclusively on Bandcamp. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're working on an EP, and you said that's coming together.
Yeah,
Like,
that's I've already recorded all the songs.
oh, okay.
Um, and I'm calling the project Legacy, the Art of the Song. It's actually 5 songs. One of the songs I have actually have 4 different versions of it. Um, and I personally I would love to just put them all out right now, but you in order to bring people into people the way people listen to music and the way they engage in music is completely different than it used to be. And so I'm trying to um, release my music smarter and really try and get a connection with people so they are aware that I'm have music out. And and I'll say this about the songs from Legacy, the Art of the Songs. They they really represent me as an artist. And I think if you were to listen to my songs over the years, um, you will hear the maturity of not just me as a singer, but just as an artist and as a songwriter and as a producer. And then also with Legacy, what the word itself represents me, especially at this point in my life, um, and being overseas, and what I think I represent as an artist and as an individual who um, has expanded just on in my life experience, being a Black American living, especially in Germany, with its history.
Yeah.
Um, and to be perfectly honest, I could Hamburg was never on my radar. I couldn't, you couldn't have told me that would be living in Hamburg. I always sort of thought I would maybe end up in Paris or London,
Yeah.
but not Hamburg. Um, and I
So,
know your next question is, how did I get here?
so let's just move right into that. How did you end up there? Yes. Yes.
um, well, I first have to say that my first experience with Germany was in 1996. I came over to do a production of Ain't Misbehaving, the musical. And before that, I was in New York with intentions of living, you know, had done a really amazing, one of the best productions of Dreamgirls that's ever been done at Paper Mill Playhouse. It was an amazing production. And a couple of days before we closed, a producer and a director from the director was from Australia, actually, and the producer was from Germany, and she was looking for to cast performers for her production of Amos Behaving at the Frankfurt English Theater, Frankfurt.
Hmm.
And, while I was in New York, I was still looking for an apartment and I hadn't found an apartment. And so when they offered this, to be cast in Amos Behaving in Germany, I'm like, wow, oh, I've never been to Germany. So making a long story short, I did that and the show ran for 3 months. And after the show closed, I stayed in Germany for almost a year and mostly in Cologne. And to the point where I almost moved then because I always I always felt that I would have greater success in Europe for some reason, and want to just explore life in Europe. Uh, but I didn't move there, and I came back to Chicago. So between 1997, 98, and 2012, I always wondered what my life would have been like if I had stayed. And a friend of mine who was originally from Chicago and used to dance with the Joseph Holmes Dance Theater, he had been living in Hamburg since early 90s.
Hmm.
And he sent me a message asking if he could bring me over to Hamburg, would I come and sing at a benefit concert that he had been producing called Sing for Life, which is a concert that raises money and awareness for HIV/AIDS research. And he had seen a video I did for a song, one of my songs called I Will, which is on YouTube. And so he said, well, if I can get you over here, would you do it? I said, of course. And also at that time, my life, I was going through what I consider the desert period of my life. It was really, I needed to make some changes and things had to be different. And so I came to Hamburg to sing at this concert, which was September 21st, 2012. And I had a return flight to Chicago, which was to leave on the 27th, just not even a week. It was not even a week later. To make a long story short, I never left. I have been here since then, and I've been back to Chicago 3 times in 12 years.
Only 3 times.
Only
Wow.
3 times. The last time I was there was 2019, and then COVID happened, and Trump happened, and I just, you know, it's really difficult for me to even want to visit the States in with all that's been happening there. I mean, I could, but it's, people say Germany. The way of living here is easier. I don't, like when I walk out on the street, walk around, I don't ever feel like somebody's about to shoot me or, the gun violence and just the vibe in the States. And I know that might sound strange, especially when you hear Germany, but it's really a different life that I live here, and vibe, especially with what's happening in America right now. So without going, too deep into it, yeah.
Got it. Got it. But now, do you still have family here in Chicago?
Yeah, my sister is still, well, she lives in Hazel Crest,
Okay.
and I have cousins and still there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where did you grow up? Where'd you go to high school?
I grew up in the Chatham area. The first 10 years of my life was on 93rd and Everhart. And then in the summer of 1969, we moved to the Roseland area. And I went to Fenger High School, which was right down the street from me. And yeah, so I graduated from Fenger. And went to Columbia College for a very short period of time. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Describe the audiences there in Germany. Are they like Chicago audiences?
No, I tell, I tell, I tell you, my first experience performing in Germany was very alarming for me uh, because I'm so, I'm used to getting some response back from the audience or some kind of connection. It's not all the time, but I, especially the kind of shows I do, you sort of expect to hear some feedback, and and I wasn't getting it, and I'm like, what is wrong with these people? and but it's changed. It's changed. And now, I mean, I do get feedback. I'll say this about my experience here. Um, Black American music or Black artists are so appreciated here in Europe, more so than in America. And the artists that you maybe have forgotten about still are revered. There's a there's a big music festival called the Baltic Soul Weekenders where and they bring back artists that you thought were dead,
Mm.
and it's like wow, and they're really appreciated. Um, and that's an aspect that I think, especially in the Black community, and I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like in the States now, but you know, Black artists for going back to the turn of the century, we have global influence, and we have set the standard artistically, creatively, for over 100 years, and that's still the case. Although now, because of technology and stuff, and where we're headed, I think we're a bit on shaky ground. um, but it's I still living in Europe. I still can see the appreciation and the legacy, and that's part of why my next project is called Legacy. And that's what I feel. I mean, I feel like I am I carry the legacy forward, um, and I feel a great responsibility artistically in what I do and what I represent, especially now, and especially living in Europe. I feel like I'm sort of babbling, but
No, that's fine. That's fine. So,
okay.
are you also finding wider acceptance there and more opportunities as an artist?
No, before living here, I sort of thought that would be the case, but it's not necessarily more opportunities, especially now. No matter where you go, um, America, Europe, wherever, it's the same struggle, especially for creative people, artists, musicians are struggling, trying to find footing in this new world of AI and digital streaming and what has happened um, with technology. And I mean, there's no music business anymore, really. So the struggle is the same everywhere, um, trying to really establish firm footing in what you do. Um, but I will say that being here, I do have a a greater um, focus, and I don't the competition, especially for mm, what I do, who I am, is less than if I were in America, trying to establish what I'm, the kind of artist that I'm uh, wanting to be. Um, but it's still a struggle and a challenge to create firm footing.
Okay, you mentioned the word legacy. That's part of your album title as well. Name some of your music heroes. Name some of your legacy performers that you do admire.
Okay. Um, well, the foundation in popular artists that you would know, I always have to start with Nat King Cole. Um, when I was a child, he's who I would hear in the house. I remember when he had his television show for the short while, you know,
Mhm.
not only his voice, but him as a musician and as a pianist and what he represents culturally. um, he's royalty. I mean, not king, he is really the king, and what he really represents. And then when you listen to him um, as an artist, a singer, and as a musician, you can't get any better. So I would start with Nat King Cole, um, and then Smokey Robinson. Uh, when I was little, uh, I he was my idol. And I remember my uncle Joseph, he knew I liked Smokey so much, and he would tease me and he would call, "You like Smokey the Bear?" And I got so upset because he called him Smokey the Bear. But
Oh God.
but Smokey was a great influence on me, especially as a songwriter. And at the time, it was unheard of to think that a singer and songwriter performer could also be a vice president of a company.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
so that just knowing that also influenced me. Um, and and then um, there's so many. Johnny Mathis, um, when he represents so much, not just the voice, but who he was, who he is, what he represented. Um, of course, Stevie Motown. The very first concert I went to was the Temptations' Gladys Knight at Medina Temple. And it was July 23rd, 1971. Paul Williams had just officially left the group because of his health.
Yes.
And and at that concert, Paul sat right next to me because he wasn't performing. He sat next to me. And
Wow.
at the end of the concert, they pulled him up on stage, and he sang For Once in My Life. And Richard Street and Damon Harris had this was like their first
Yeah.
tour and introduction to the public. And so that that experience was like my first experience of a live pop concert. And I remembered um, Dennis Edwards he was just so powerful. And that's what endeared me to Dennis and my love for the Temptations. And I don't know if you've seen the video of me producing Dennis in the studio. Have you
Yes.
seen it?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was like surreal to me, and it was a dream fulfilled. Um, and then, of course,
Dennis Edwards. So you saw that concert, and then how long was it before you actually worked with him?
oh my God, that was a whole nother lifetime.
Okay.
Because uh, actually, I almost became a temptation.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and, you know, Dell's referred me or connected me with Otis Williams
hmm.
of the Temptations. And to, because at the time Dennis had left and Ali had gone. And so they were looking to fill that spot. And so Chuck had arranged, you know, a telephone uh, meeting, and so I sent a tape to Otis, and it was actually Otis and Ron Tyson because Otis and Ron are like run temps, and they the tape, and then they called me back and said, "Yeah, man, we really like you know, your sound, blah blah blah, and we want to fly you to Hawaii for rehearsal to meet." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And and so in the conversation, I had mentioned to Otis that I had met him briefly backstage at Solid Gold taping. You remember Solid Gold?
Oh, absolutely. Dion, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was in LA at the time, hanging out. It might have been, I think it was during the time when I did Star Search. And um, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, Tony Warren. And Tony was a really big session singer in LA and was singing with everybody, and he knew Otis. And so he took me backstage to meet Otis and, you know, just, you know, hey, hey, hey. And so in this conversation with Otis on the phone, I said, well, Otis, you know, we actually met a few years ago when you were doing Solid Gold through my friend Tony Warren, who unfortunately had passed away. And Tony unfortunately passed away of AIDS.
Mm.
And so when I told or mentioned this to Otis, he said, "Oh, okay, okay." And so a couple of days passed, and I get a call back from Ron Tyson. And Ron, you know, we like your voice and everything, blah, 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 blah. We need to ask you a question. Are you gay? I said, what? Why you asking me that? And I knew why they asked me because I mentioned Tony Warren, who had passed. And I said, well, what does that have anything to do with, you know, me being able to do this job? You know, why don't you, why don't you listen to me and see, you know, and that canceled everything.
Wow.
That canceled. They didn't even audition me.
That's horrible.
So
Wow. Good.
that was that was a bit devastating. And but I said, okay, okay, it's your loss. It's your loss.
Absolutely.
And um, and then the opportunity came to work with Dennis through my friend Mark Williams, who produced the show. Do you remember Urban Street? It came on Channel 32. It was
No.
like a weekly music magazine. Richard Steele used to host it,
Oh,
and several. Um, but my friend Mark, my dear friend Mark Williams, he was working with Dennis, his manager, because Dennis had the Dennis Edwards in the Temptations review, and Mark gave Dennis one of my cassettes that had my song Naturally and a song that I've been working on called Stop Playing With My Heart. And when you listen to it, everybody said, you know, that Dennis and I sound so much alike, or that and so he gave the tape to Dennis, and Dennis loved it. Dennis loved the songs, and so at the time he was trying to reinvent himself and do some new songs. And so he hired me to produce some these songs on him. So I went to Detroit, and you see the video, and that's what happened. And the song naturally came out on this little CD uh, that he put out, but it never really uh, evolved into what I believe it could have. But I will say that the experience working with Dennis was priceless. He was so easy, and no no ego trip. I mean, you would never know that he was Dennis Edwards of the Temptation, because none of that came into the studio. He was there. You watch the video, and I was, I was, as a producer, I was sort of persnickety as to what I wanted him to do, because I knew his voice. I mean, I knew every lick Dennis did and could do it. And so I wanted him to do what I wanted to hear him
Right.
do. And he did. And I'm so thankful that that's captured on video on YouTube. It is, it's priceless. And that vindicated kind of my experience with the Temptations. Um, you know, and I still, respect Otis and Ron and the Temptations. But I'm thankful also that I didn't get it, because if I did, I think that would have put me in a box also, and it would have limited the vision I have of myself. It would have fulfilled a personal desire, but people would only see me as that old, and that's not who I am.
Right.
So,
Right.
so it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back. Your first big break were doing commercial jingles.
Yeah.
And the producer, Paul David Wilson,
Yes.
you credit
Yes.
him for making all that
Yes.
possible. What was your
Yeah.
first commercial?
My very first commercial was for Coca-Cola,
Oh,
Have a Coke and a Smile,
ah,
1979.
wow.
And it was radio and television commercial, which means it was everywhere. It was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Uh, have a Coke and a smile. Um, and yeah, and Paul still, he, at that time, he was there were maybe he was one of maybe three Black producers in Chicago doing jingles at the time. And I'm so thankful for that experience with him. And he's still a very special person in my uh, career development. And I also have to mention
With the jazz guitarist Keith Henderson, who will be a guest on Black Muse. What was that about?
we did my CD, The Reality of Dreams Project, in 2003. And Keith is not just a jazz musician. He's a part of the the rich Chicago legacy, getting back to the word legacy. Um, you know, Keith, director with the Emotions, when the Emotions went out with Earth, Wind and Fire many years ago. Um, he was with R. Kelly, and he's uh, he's a part of the legacy. So yeah, he was a co-producer on my Reality of Dreams project, Chicago Legacy.
Cool, 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 cool. And also looking.
Funny to me, I don't think that I'm really talk a lot, but when in this situation, I hear myself talking a lot, and it's funny to me.
And that's
Um,
all right. That's okay.
um, I also just want to say thank you to you and Howard for inviting me to speak to you on this platform. And for those who are watching or listening, I hope that you would visit my website, marshalltitus.com, also marshalltitus.bandcamp.com, where my new song, Only Love, is being released. And also the thing about Bandcamp, there is a minimum price of $1 or €1, but you can also pay whatever you want. You can pay it $1 or €1 or $1,000 if you want to support me, the artist, or and not just me, but all the artists on Bandcamp. That's one of the things about Bandcamp. It's the freedom for you to contribute and support artists and as much as you want. And that money the artist sees, as opposed to Spotify or these other platforms where we don't see maybe 0.3% until we get 1,000 streams. So please visit me on Bandcamp, YouTube, my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, Facebook, Instagram, and don't just like it, but send me a message. Let me know what you think of the music, like you did, which I really appreciate. Yeah, it's really encouraging to get feedback and to let me know that people are listening, and that's very important. So yeah, there you go, talking a lot again.
Ooh. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. This has been another lively conversation.
Well, I appreciate this, and I look forward to talking to you again, and hopefully I'll visit Chicago next year after Kamala Harris takes the office of the presidency.
I like that. Yes. Okay. Listen, before we close, I want to give a shout out to Howard Sandifer and Darlene Sandifer. They are the founders of the Chicago West Community Music Center on the West Side. And this whole video podcast is their idea. And also the school happens to be celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So
oh wow, congratulations.
To shout out about. So
congratulations.
Anyway, yeah. So
hey there, beautiful people. I'm Marshall Titus. Music has always been my way of sharing my heart and my soul, my way of connecting with the world. And today, I want to invite you to join me on a new journey with my latest song, Only Love, released exclusively on Bandcamp. Only Love is more than just a song to me. It's a message. It's a feeling that I believe we all need right now. An anthem for our humanity. And I'm so excited to share it with you exclusively on Bandcamp. Bandcamp is a platform that truly values and supports artists such as myself. By purchasing Only Love on Bandcamp, you're directly contributing to my ability to keep creating music that matters. Plus, on Bandcamp, you'll get exclusive content, special peeks behind the scenes. It's not just about listening to the music, it's about being part of a community that loves real heartfelt artistry. So, head on over to my Bandcamp page by clicking the link below. Listen to Only Love, and if it speaks to you, make it your own. Purchase it, share it. Let's spread the message of Only Love together. Let's make the world a more loving place. Thank you for all your love and support. Only love will last forever. Ciao.